There was a flute of champagne on the windowsill, half full, lipstick smudge on the rim, and I had no idea how it got there. But that's not where this starts. It starts with a sound. Not a scream, not a crash, just the quiet, almost apologetic click of my phone connecting to an accidental call. I wasn't even holding it. It was lying face down on the table next to my cup of chamomile tea, untouched, going cold. I was knee-deep in my latest obsessive rabbit hole, figuring out if antique teapots appreciate in value based on glaze color. Don't ask why. It's just a thing I do. That sound, though, it pulled me out of my trance. I flipped the phone over. Call in progress, Blair Redheart. I didn't think much of it. Probably a mistake. She was at some company thing, end of quarter drinks, or so she said. Said they were renting out the 42nd floor of the Sterling Tower for celebratory nonsense. I remember those exact words. I was about to hang up. Then I heard her voice. Not talking to me. He still texts me good night, every single night. Like clockwork. 9:34 p.m. A pause. Then a man's voice, low and amused. That's kind of sweet. Or desperate. More laughter. Her laughter. That little laugh she only uses when she's chasing danger. Like when she sped past a state trooper once doing 95 in a rental car and said, "Let's see if he notices." I reached for the volume button. Turned it up. "It's not desperation," she said. "It's consistency. He just still believes we're good." That hurt, but not as much as what came next. If I told him the truth, I think he'd break. Like, fully snap. He's too fragile. And then, like an exhale made of razors. I hate that about him. I stopped breathing. I don't even remember if my heart was beating at that moment. I just remember the scraping sound, her setting a glass down maybe, followed by more footsteps. Then another man chimed in. Different voice. Rougher. "So when are you ending it?" Another pause. Then the softest reply I've ever heard. I was hoping I wouldn't have to. Silence. Then 3 words I didn't recognize, but would replay in my head 100 times that night. Champagne. Hallway. 10. The line went dead. My phone was still in my hand. I was still in the same spot. But I wasn't me anymore. I was whatever comes after you hear the kind of truth that burns your bones before it reaches your skin. I looked over. That's when I saw the champagne flute. Sitting right there on the windowsill. Smudged lipstick. Half full. I live alone. Or at least, I thought I did. I didn't move for 15 minutes after that call ended. My tea had gone completely cold. The condensation from the untouched champagne glass on the windowsill had formed a little ring, like proof that something real had happened, something I hadn't imagined. I just sat there, staring at it, trying to convince myself that maybe it had been left by a friend, or maybe I had forgotten we had people over recently. But no, we hadn't had guests in weeks. And I don't drink champagne. Not since New Year's 2018, when I ended up on the bathroom floor promising the ceiling I'd never do it again. There was only one other explanation. Someone had been here. No, someone had been here with her. That idea crawled through my brain like a centipede. Disgusting. Invasive. Impossible to ignore. I opened the bedroom door quietly, as if I might find her in there, laughing on speakerphone, surrounded by secrets and betrayal. But the bed was empty. Perfectly made. The way I left it. I began checking drawers, not because I expected to find anything, just to do something. Her nightstand was locked, which I already knew, but had never questioned. She said it was for privacy, and that we all deserve to keep a little corner of ourselves. I always found that poetic. Stupid me. It took me 2 minutes to pick the lock. I watched enough YouTube videos on lockpicking during lockdown to become mildly proficient. I always thought it was just a quirky skill. Never imagined I'd use it like this. Inside her drawer was a small, unmarked black phone. Old school. No fingerprint sensor. No facial recognition. Just a 4-digit passcode and a faint scratch on the screen. It was powered off. I turned it on. The lock screen glowed to life. For digits. I stared at it. Tried her birthday. Denied. Tried our anniversary. Denied. I almost gave up. Then I typed in 0934. The time I text her goodnight every night. Unlocked. I don't know how to describe what I felt in that moment. Relief? No. It was more like a doorway opening into a room that smelled of mildew and blood. You don't want to step inside, but you have to. The home screen had just 4 apps. Phone. Messages. Calendar. Camera. I opened the Messages app first. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. There were 3 contacts pinned at the top. Gray, D, C. No names. Just letters. Symbols. The most recent message was from Gray, and it simply said, "You left your glass on the windowsill again. He'll notice eventually." That message was from 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago. Meaning someone had been inside my house while I was home. While I was downstairs. While I was drinking tea and organizing my sock drawer. That was when I noticed something else. The carpet near the back door was damp. Just slightly. Like someone had stepped in with wet shoes and then changed their mind. I'm not proud of what I did next. I didn't call the police. I didn't text her. I just sat down. And I waited. Waited for her to come home. Because I needed to see her face when I asked what the hell 0934 really meant. She walked through the front door at exactly 12:47 a.m. I heard the click of her heels before I saw her. That confident, light rhythm she always had when she was tipsy and trying to seem like she wasn't. She smelled like citrus perfume and hotel bar bourbon, the kind that sticks to your clothes and follows you into conversations you regret the next morning. Her coat was off before she reached the kitchen. She was humming. Humming. I watched her from the hallway, holding the black phone in one hand and pressing my other palm so hard against the wall I thought I might go through it. She didn't see me right away. She was too busy opening the fridge and pretending we were still in the version of reality where I didn't know who she was anymore. "Hey, babe," she called out casually, pulling out the orange juice. "Want some? I'm parched. Didn't drink much." She said it without irony, while pouring herself a glass with the smooth hands of someone who's mastered the art of lying in the middle of the night. I didn't answer. She finally turned and saw me, and for half a second her face fell, just slightly. Just long enough for me to notice the flicker of "oh no." But it was gone instantly, replaced by a smile so perfectly crafted it made me sick. "What's wrong?" she asked, setting the glass down. "You look pale." I held up the black phone. Her expression didn't crack, not in the way I expected. No gasps. No sudden denials. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she just stared at it, and then looked at me like I was the one who had violated something sacred. "Where did you get that?" Her tone dropped half an octave. "Not scared. Careful. Your locked drawer," I replied. My voice was shaking, but I kept it low. "You always said we should have no secrets, remember?" She sighed. Not dramatically. More like someone disappointed that their favorite series got canceled too early. She leaned back against the counter, crossing her arms, staring past me into some invisible space. "Why would you go through my things, Elmer?" I nearly laughed. Actually laughed. That brittle, bitter kind that comes from somewhere just above heartbreak and just below madness. "Because someone named Gray texted you tonight, telling you that I'd noticed the glass on the windowsill. The one with your lipstick on it. The one you left while he was here." Now she flinched. "Barely. But I saw it." "I didn't cheat on you," she said quickly, reflexively, like she'd practiced it. "I never said you did." I stepped forward. "But you were here. And so was he. While I was here. In this house. You snuck him in while I was on the damn couch." She closed her eyes and rubbed her temple with her thumb and middle finger, like I was giving her a migraine. Like I was the problem. Then she said something I'll never forget. "You don't know what it's like to feel trapped in softness, Elmer. You don't know what it's like to be smothered by kindness." Smothered. By kindness. That's what she called me. A pillow over her face made of soft words and home-cooked meals. I didn't know whether to scream or collapse. "I've been nothing but good to you," I whispered, my throat raw. "And that's your prison?" She turned away from me, still not crying, still perfectly composed, and started walking toward the hallway. But I wasn't done. "What does 0934 mean?" She stopped, didn't turn around. "It's the time I stopped loving you," she said flatly. And then she walked into the bedroom and locked the door. I stood there, blinking like someone just struck me blind in one eye. The phone was still in my hand. My entire body was shaking, but I couldn't cry. Not yet. There was something deeper now. Something colder. Because as much as that moment gutted me, there was something worse I hadn't told her. That phone. It had voicemails. 7 of them. And the last one had my name in it. The thing about pain is that it doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It plants itself in your chest like a slow-growing root, and before you know it, it's wrapped around your lungs. That's how it felt holding her burner phone at 1:13 in the morning, staring at the voicemail icon like it was some kind of cursed object. 7 messages. No timestamps. No transcripts. Just little gray bubbles waiting to be played. I told myself not to listen. Told myself that knowing more wouldn't make any of this easier. But I've never been good at resisting the truth, even when it's wearing steel-toed boots and aiming straight for my ribcage. I played the first 6 in a row. The first 5 were from the same voice, calm, calculated, smooth. A man who had clearly rehearsed what he wanted to say. Some were short, miss you already. Others were longer, hinting at dates they'd planned, memories they were reliving without me. One of them, and I can't forget this, included audio of them laughing together. Not a voicemail, just a recording he sent her, probably from his phone. The kind you send when you're too infatuated to care about boundaries. I don't know where they were, but I could hear her giggling and saying, "Stop, he might hear." And him replying, "That's what makes it fun." The 6th voicemail? Silence. Pure silence. 17 seconds of it. But you could hear the wind. A car door closing. It felt deliberate, like he wanted her to know he was close, without saying a word. Then came the 7th. And this one started with my name. Elmer. Just that. Nothing else for 2 full seconds. The way he said it made my skin crawl. He knew. He knew I would hear it eventually. I imagine by the time you're listening to this, you found the phone. Or she let you find it. Hard to say, really. Blair's unpredictable like that. But I wanted to tell you something directly, man to man, if you still believe in that kind of thing. His voice wasn't threatening. It was smug, controlled, like someone narrating a documentary about how they stole someone's life and were proud of the editing. You didn't lose her because you were bad. You lost her because you never noticed when she got bored. I froze. Every hair on my body stood up. That sentence hit harder than anything Blair had said. She tried, Elmer. She tried to live the life you built. The small one. The quiet one. But the truth is, she was starving. You gave her peace when she wanted chaos. You gave her safety when she needed to feel alive. I'm not better than you. I'm just less afraid of fire. Then he laughed. Not loud. Just a low, satisfied chuckle. Don't hate her too much. You gave her everything you had. It just wasn't what she wanted. You don't need a villain here, Elmer. You need a mirror. The message ended there. No signature. No clue. Just his voice in my ear, coiled like a snake I'd never seen until it bit me. I put the phone down gently, like it was something fragile. Or radioactive. I didn't cry. Didn't yell. Instead, I just stood up, walked to the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I didn't recognize the man looking back. He looked tired, pale, soft, like house slippers. That's when I knew this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about erasure. About a version of me that had slowly been scraped away while I smiled through it, bringing her coffee every morning and thinking it meant something. And the worst part? I still loved her. But that love was beginning to rot, and I wasn't sure what version of myself would crawl out from under it next. Sleep didn't come. I didn't even try. I just sat on the edge of the couch with the burner phone beside me, the blue light of the television flickering in the background like an open wound I couldn't bandage. At some point, Blair must have fallen asleep behind the locked bedroom door. Or maybe she was just pretending. Either way, the house was silent. Not peaceful silent. The kind of silence that feels like it's pressing on your chest, reminding you that something has changed and you'll never quite fit back into your skin the same way again. It's a strange thing, realizing the person you trust most has been walking around with a second life, not a secret fling, not a dumb mistake, but a fully formed, intentional second existence. And you? You've been background noise in your own home. A placeholder. Something to return to for stability between reckless chapters. But something in that 7th voicemail wouldn't let me go. You need a mirror. Those words echoed like a mocking voice in an empty cathedral. I couldn't stop thinking about how calm he sounded, how calculated. Like he didn't just steal my wife, he dissected me in the process. I wanted to understand how it happened. Not because I wanted closure, screw closure, but because I needed to know how deep the deception went. And I had one last place to look. The night drawer. It's what Blair called the little drawer in the hallway console. She always kept it locked. Not her jewelry box, not the safe in the closet, just this oddly small, ordinary drawer. She claimed it was where she stored private journals, old letters from her grandmother, sentimental things she wasn't ready to share. I respected that. Everyone deserves one drawer, right? But tonight, that drawer felt radioactive. I fetched the lockpick again. Hands steadier now. Practice makes perfect, I guess. It clicked open in less than 30 seconds. The first thing I noticed was the envelope. Cream-colored, thick paper, sealed with a wax stamp that had been broken, like it had been opened and resealed multiple times. Inside were 4 photographs. Physical prints. Who prints photos anymore? One was of her and a man I didn't recognize. Blonde hair. Sharp jaw. He looked like someone who called waiters by their first names and never said thank you. They were standing in front of a large mirror in what looked like a hotel lobby, but not just any hotel. I recognized it instantly. It was the Sterling Tower, the same building where her quarterly event had been. The timestamp on the back said 2 months ago. 2 months, meaning this had been going on far longer than I thought. Beneath the envelope was a small black leather notebook. Pages worn, corners frayed. I opened it and started reading without hesitation. It wasn't a diary. It was strategy. Names, dates, observations. The entries were short, bulleted. E avoids conflict. Withholds anger. Write about stress equals sympathy. Repeat small lies. Make them routine. If questioned, flip it. Why don't you trust me? Told Gray, he won't leave me, even if he finds out. It wasn't journaling. It was manipulation training. Each entry was like a blow to the chest. This wasn't someone caught up in emotion. This was a plan. A methodical descent into betrayal that she expected me to survive. Because she knew I would stay. Because she knew I was weak. At the bottom of the drawer, beneath the notebook, I found something that nearly made me throw up. A spare key. But not to our house. It had a tag on it. Sterling 42B. A unit number. A place she kept. Or maybe they kept. My wife had a second key to a second life. And she'd hidden it in the one place she assumed I'd never look. I stared at it. This tiny piece of metal that suddenly weighed more than everything else in my life combined. I turned it over in my fingers like I was examining a weapon. And maybe I was. Because in that moment, something snapped inside me. Not rage, not sorrow, something colder. Quieter. I was done being the man who waited for answers. Tomorrow, I'd go to Sterling Tower. And whatever I found in Unit 42B, I wouldn't be coming back the same. It was a building I'd driven past 100 times before, never once imagining it would hold a piece of my life I hadn't been allowed to see. Sterling Tower stood like a monument to everything I wasn't. Clean lines, cold windows, and the smell of money so thick you could choke on it. It was early. The city hadn't woken up yet. People were still pressing snooze and clutching their pillows. Meanwhile, I was standing in the lobby with a stolen key to a secret life my wife had been living right under my nose. I didn't belong there. Not in my faded hoodie, not with my scuffed sneakers, and especially not with the pressure in my chest like someone had tied a boulder to my sternum. But no one stopped me. The elevator accepted the key card without a blink, and before I knew it, I was rising past floors I'd never be invited to, heading straight for the top, floor 42. Executive level. Where she said her office parties happened. Where she told me they served fancy shrimp cocktails and bad jazz. I never knew she was also serving up her double life. The hallway outside Unit 42B was too quiet. Carpet too soft. Doors too perfect. I stood in front of hers for longer than I'd like to admit. The key trembled in my hand. I wasn't scared of what I might find. I was scared of what I wouldn't be able to unsee once I opened that door. But I did it anyway. The lock clicked, and the door opened silently. No creak. No sound. Just an invitation into a place that smelled like expensive cologne and betrayal. The lights were dimmed to a soft gold, the air lightly perfumed. Everything was painfully curated. Minimalist, but soulless. A long beige couch sat like a showroom display across from a marble coffee table. A few magazines fanned out artfully. A bowl of fake fruit. This wasn't a place someone lived. It was a place someone escaped to. And then I saw it. A framed photo on the side table near the window. A man, him. Same one from the photo in the drawer back home. The man with the arrogant smirk and teeth too white to trust. This wasn't a hidden affair. This wasn't some cheap fling. This place, it belonged to both of them. I felt my legs move before my brain caught up. I was walking through the apartment like I had some right to it. Opening drawers, scanning bookshelves, examining every piece of evidence of a life I hadn't been invited to. Her clothes were in the closet. Her perfume was on the vanity. Her handwriting was on the notepad next to the bed. And then I saw the list taped to the closet door. At first, I thought it was a grocery list or something stupid and domestic like that. But no, it was a checklist. Neatly written. Bullet points. Deadly. Transfer remaining funds from joint. Initiate legal consult. Emotional distress clause. Gray confirmed. 42B utilities under Shell Corp. Easier if he breaks first. Gray suggests silence for now. Prepare phase 2. That phrase again. Phase 2. I didn't know what it meant. Not exactly. But I knew what it implied. There was more. There was a next step. Something I hadn't seen coming. Something she was saving for later. It wasn't just about leaving me. It was about defeating me. I was a problem to be managed. That's when I noticed the envelope on the desk. My name on the front in her handwriting. No honey, no L, no babe. Just Elmer. I opened it slowly, hands cold. The letter inside wasn't emotional. It was surgical. A 3-page dissection of our marriage. Of my emotional patterns, of my fear of change, of how I clung to stability like it owed me something. She said I had stopped growing. That I had made her feel like a character in someone else's novel. That she wasn't leaving out of anger, but out of necessity. And then the sentence that made me physically nauseous. If you'd ever fought for me the way you fought to stay comfortable, this might have ended differently. I folded the letter and sat down on the bed. Everything was so neat, so untouchable. I was sitting in the heart of their lie, and it was cleaner than my own home. Sterile, sanitized, empty. But something shifted in me then. I realized she didn't expect me to come here. She didn't expect me to see this. The letter was for the idea of me. Not for the man who found the burner phone. Not for the man who stood in this room, holding the keys to her hidden life. I wasn't part of her narrative anymore. I was a footnote. But I wasn't done. As I stood to leave, something caught my eye near the lamp. A small metal box, tucked under a stack of receipts. It wasn't locked. Inside was a flash drive. No label. Just a plain silver stick that looked unimportant, unless you were hiding something. I slipped it into my pocket without thinking. Because if she had a phase 2, then so would I. I didn't go home right away. I couldn't. Not after seeing what I saw in Unit 42B. I needed space. Air. Time. Something to remind me that the world still functioned outside of curated betrayals and jasmine-scented lies. I ended up in a 24-hour diner on 3rd and Marlowe. The kind of place where the booths are cracked and the coffee tastes like regret. Perfect fit for someone like me. I ordered eggs I didn't eat, stared at a menu I didn't read, and kept one hand wrapped around the flash drive in my pocket like it might crawl away if I let go. I still didn't know why I'd taken it. Instinct maybe. Or maybe I just needed to take something from that apartment. Something real. Because Blair had taken everything else. My trust, my routine, my marriage, and flipped it into some twisted performance where I was the only one who didn't know I was being watched. I didn't even care if it was filled with spreadsheets or budget files. I just needed something that wasn't designed for me to believe in. By the time I got home, the sun was fully up. Blair's car wasn't in the driveway. She hadn't called, hadn't texted. I didn't know if she was at the office, at the tower, or halfway across the state with that smirking piece of cologne-wearing corporate art. I didn't care. Not in that moment. I plugged the flash drive into my old laptop, the one she never used because it froze too often, and waited as the files loaded. There were 5 folders, all unlabeled, just strings of random letters and numbers. But once I clicked into them, it became clear they weren't random at all. Videos. Dozens of them. Audio files. Screenshots of texts. Even scanned copies of handwritten notes. And almost all of them had my name in the metadata. I opened the first video. It was footage of our living room. Not from a phone. From a mounted camera. A hidden camera. It was dated from almost 8 months ago. The quality was good. The angle? Even better. I saw myself coming in from the kitchen, setting down a mug, and sitting on the couch with a book. I looked tired. Normal. Harmless. But in the corner of the screen was a timestamp and a label, subject baseline, E. Wilkes. My hands started sweating. I opened another video. And another. Every clip was a scene from our home. Me folding laundry, me talking to myself while cooking, me pacing in the office late at night. One even showed me asleep. The audio was clear. Too clear. This wasn't an accident. This was surveillance. Then came the audio files. Recordings of conversations. Edited. Trimmed. Labeled by date and topic. Gaslight response test. Jealousy trigger. Coworker scenario. Subject exhibits hesitation when confronted directly. I opened a text document next. My name was at the top in bold. Underneath it, bullet points. Just like the ones I found in her notebook, but worse. More clinical. Like a lab report on a failing experiment. Subject defaults to emotional retreat. Avoids direct confrontation. Responds to guilt cues, tears, emotional distancing. Still believes apology equals restoration. Note: effective delay tool. Projected mental collapse post-reveal, low probability. Monitor. Monitor. They were monitoring me. This wasn't just cheating. It wasn't even manipulation anymore. This was data collection. Cold. Strategic. Like I was the control group in some sick emotional experiment. The worst part? I found her voice. On recordings. Not just talking to Gray, but talking about me to someone else. He's like a well-behaved dog. Loyal. Predictable. He'll whine when he's confused, but he won't bite. There was laughter. Then she added, once we have the right clips, we'll show him what he needs to believe. That he's unstable. That he's the one unraveling. He'll accept it. He always does. I pushed the laptop off my lap. It hit the floor with a dull thud. I couldn't breathe. My ears were ringing. My vision blurred. Not from tears, but from something heavier. Something darker. Not sadness. Not even betrayal. Violation. They had built a version of me, on file, in folders, in video, just to prove to me that I wasn't real. That I was weak. That I was the problem. I had been gaslit, observed, weaponized. And for what? For her to walk away with a clean slate? For him to swoop in like the savior, while I rot in a manufactured breakdown? No. No, not this time. They had a phase 2. Now I had one too. I started backing up the files. Every single one. Onto multiple drives. One went into a safe deposit box. Another into my cloud storage. A third on a separate SD card taped to the bottom of my car's glove compartment. And then I began writing. Not just notes. Not just memories. But a full timeline. Every detail. Every discrepancy. Every lie. If they wanted to build a version of me that could collapse under pressure, I'd build one of them that could collapse in court. The word revenge sounds dirty to most people. It conjures up images of rage, of screaming, of throwing plates and burning bridges. But what I felt wasn't rage. It was focus. Cold, surgical clarity. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to outlast her. Quietly. Thoroughly. With precision. And I had everything I needed to do it. The flash drive was my weapon. Their surveillance, their recordings, the reports Blair and Gray made behind my back. Every damning second was now duplicated across 3 separate locations. One in my lawyer's hands. One with a journalist friend I hadn't spoken to in years. And one encrypted and set to automatically send to my work email if I didn't log into my backup account every 48 hours. It wasn't paranoia. It was insurance. I didn't confront Blair. I didn't storm into the apartment, slam evidence down on the table, and demand tears or apologies. I stopped playing the character she'd written for me, the quiet, pliable man she believed wouldn't push back. I let her keep thinking I was broken, that I was unraveling just like she'd planned. What she didn't know was that the first person I contacted wasn't a lawyer. It was her firm's compliance officer. I didn't accuse. I didn't dramatize. I just dropped the facts. Anonymous tip. Evidence of an undisclosed relationship between a senior consultant and a high-level client executive, Gray, accompanied by surveillance footage gathered without consent in a shared marital residence. All signed off with a simple, "You may want to review this for ethical implications before legal trouble emerges." Within 3 days, Blair was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Gray disappeared from the firm's public partnerships page. By the end of the month, she was officially terminated. And that was only phase 1. Phase 2 came next, the divorce. I filed first. No dramatic showdown. No crying at the table. Just papers delivered to her office. Well, to whatever co-working space she was freelancing out of by then. She had lost her job, her reputation, and the man who thought he could puppeteer my mental breakdown. Turns out Gray didn't stick around once the legal fire started. Corporate sharks don't mate for life. She tried to delay, to reframe the narrative, even offered to have a real conversation over coffee. I declined. She tried to weaponize the recordings, twist them, show that I had been irrational or controlling. But the full context was on my side. She had edited those clips. She had labeled me like a science project. Once the courts saw what I showed them, the uncut footage, the audio logs, the timeline, I didn't just win the divorce. I walked away clean. She got nothing. No alimony. No house. No part of the savings I'd moved to my private account weeks before filing. And me? I got my life back. The old version of me, the soft-spoken, guilt-prone, desperate to please version, died somewhere around voicemail number 7. But what grew in its place wasn't bitter, just sharper, wiser. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd been programmed to stay small for so long. I rebuilt my days. Took the job offer in Portland I'd turned down for her 3 years ago. Moved into a quiet cottage with bookshelves and a view of pine trees instead of glass towers. I stopped texting goodnight at 9:34. And one morning, months later, I woke up to a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in a decade. Ellie, a friend from college. She'd seen my name in an article about the hidden digital weaponization of relationships, the one my journalist friend ran, based on the contents of that flash drive. She didn't even know it was me. Just said the story moved her. We got coffee, then dinner, then, slowly, everything else. She's nothing like Blair. And that's the point. Ellie laughs with her whole face. She makes me feel like a person, not a profile to be analyzed. When I talk, she listens. Not because she's looking for weaknesses, but because she actually wants to know me. And every time she smiles at me like I matter, like I'm not just a footnote in someone else's ambition, I'm reminded that surviving isn't enough. Healing is real. And sometimes, when you lose the person you thought was your future, you make room for the one who was meant to be all along.